Good morning. I'm Sandy Walden of Serenity, your master grief coach. As I'm coming to you this morning, it's October 26th. We are in the middle of what we call silly season, which is an elections cycle here in the United States. There's also a pandemic coming on. If you're joining me, please say hello. I would love to hear how you are managing this time, how you're going through this time in a way that feels better for you, that you are getting through without so much stress. In fact, I titled this video, Turmoil and Stress. Oh my. It seems that every time I turn on a television or radio, or if I read something, whether it's on Facebook or listen to a podcast or whatever, I hear that the planet is falling apart. I hear demonization of different political figures. And while that's easier to set aside, I hear incredibly awful things about people who might support this candidate or that one. For me, and I encourage you to do some of this, part of the answer is saying, you know what? It's exaggerated, and I have a choice. I can turn the dial. I can walk away. I can have a different conversation. We're also in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. And if you're listening to this, there's a really good chance that the reason you're listening to me is because you're someone who's grieving. When we're grieving, it can be as though you're walking around with an open wound and these barbs, these bits of nastiness, which might bounce off of you in more normal times, can hit much harder. They can do a lot more damage. So I'd encourage you to be mindful of what you're hearing. Even if you're listening to somebody who completely agrees with your political views or your health views or anything else, close your eyes and notice, how is that landing for me? Do I feel good? Do I feel calm? Is it healing? Or is it agitating? Is it aggravating? What am I feeding within my being? This matters. It matters a lot. It matters a lot. It can be tough to get away from these conversations. It can be tough to change the rolling through our mind of what someone says or what we've read or what we think and what we believe. I get that. But I encourage you to very deliberately take a step back and notice what makes me feel a little bit better. Pardon me. Perhaps it's putting on some music that makes you feel good. It could be going outside and taking a walk. It could be having a conversation with somebody who's willing to talk about anything that's not stressful. Let's talk about the flowers you intend to plant next spring. Let's talk about what you're making for dinner today. Notice how your body responds differently if you're talking about something that's really heated as opposed to something that feels more normal, more calm. Now, we have a natural tendency to want to engage in things that make us wound up, but that's not always a good sort of wound up. Sometimes it is. I'm a real political junkie. I love politics. But this year I find myself turning it off and stepping away just because things are so hostile, not just between the candidates. I will come on Facebook and I'll read something very heartfelt from a friend that will say, if you're supporting this candidate, clearly you need to unfriend me because we have nothing in common and you're the enemy. And you know what's really sad? I read those things from people who support all political parties. It breaks my heart. And so I simply distance myself and send them some love. Yeah, it's a really deliberate choice to sit back and say, I care about you. I want to close my eyes and take those few deep breaths and send you sincere love. For me, I also want to send you healing Reiki. Not to change anyone's mind, that's not my business, but to calm myself and hopefully them, because I believe that the energy of love and Reiki helps to soothe and calm all of us. Emotions can live within our system for only about 90 seconds unless we feed them. Most of the time, we're feeding them on the unconscious level, on the subconscious level, without even being aware. And when we're grieving, I get that. This is not about judgment. This is not about making anything stressful. This is saying, what can I do that might feel a little bit better? Maybe I can turn off these sounds that are going through my head, the stress and worry that I'm playing through myself on my own loop, by listening to something that deliberately makes me feel better. Maybe it's a meditation. Maybe it's having a little dance around the room. Maybe it's about recalling a memory of my loved one that makes me laugh out loud. Stress, turmoil, anxiety, they can hit much harder now when you're grieving than it would have in circumstances pre-grief. But you're not without options. Take a deliberate step to feel a little bit better. Turn yourself away from what's hurting you. Step into something that feels better. Call a friend, read a book, take a walk, engage with something that feels better. And when that calm, when that better feeling starts coming, focus on feeding that. Deliberately feed that because it matters. I'm Sandy Walden from Serenity, your Master Grief Coach. I'd love to know what you do to turn off or turn away from some of the craziness that's going on in our planet, to enjoy a place that feels a little bit better. What feels really good for you? We all have tools at our disposal, but it's really helpful to learn what works for others. If you'd like to have a conversation about how I can support you on your grief journey, either send me a private message or use the link that I'll put down below and schedule a time for us to have your discovery call. For today, I wish you a day of peace and calm and gentle healing. Namaste.